Fun times. So, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I'm so excited for people to have a chance to get to know you before being in that crunch time of, I need a home inspector in the next 24 hours. So, thanks for being here. Would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thank you for having me, Nikki. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with potential clients and other real estate agents and also you. Let you all know a little bit more about myself. My name is Lisa Lotus, and I'm the owner and inspector at Taurus Home Inspections, and that's Taurus like the astrological sign.
Ooh.
Taurus the bull, where there's no bull. My inspections. I started my business July of 2020, so during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
And when houses were sort of flying off the market, the interest rates were really low. And I was thinking this is a good time to start an inspection business. I had been trained by a gentleman who had worked for about a year and a half, and previous to that I had started doing rental inspections for the cities of Seattle, Tukwila, and Burien, and I really liked what I was doing. One of my favorite parts about home inspections are working with clients, working with our customer relationships and relationship building, which is like a huge part of the business.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that's something that you can be taught. It's just sort of an innate ability that one has to be able to connect with others and to be able to educate them about their huge purchases or, huge sales if it's going to be from the selling end. But how did I get into it? Was that part of the question?
Yeah. So you were doing rental inspections.
Correct.
And then you launched your own business to be doing home inspections.
Yes.
And so do you still do rental inspections on behalf of the city, but through your business?
I do.
Okay.
And so I still do rental inspections, and I expanded to add the city of Lakewood. Some of these, they're all run by municipalities, so the programs are decided on by the city councils, and some of them require 100% of the units to be inspected if they're multifamily units. Some are just 20% of the units. Some are, so those are the differences. But then there's some, slightly different requirements in order to pass the inspections. And it's a really interesting situation where I work with I'm mainly working on the tenant's behalf, but the property owner or property management company hires me to do the inspections. So I have to be really diplomatic about how these inspections take place. I have been asked to do some inspections. So we had talked about inspections that I don't really do or that I really need to not do. Yeah. And those are more on behalf of landlords that need to evict tenants. I don't believe that's not part of my forte, and that's not part of my wheelhouse. So they want proof that the tenants are causing damage.
Oh boy.
I would do that as a city ordered inspection, but it's just those don't work out well, and either that or then the tenant is calling on behalf of themselves and saying, actually, will you please inspect this unit? And I have to say, well, I'm not really able to do that because it's not going to hold up in court. It's not anything that I can. I don't feel like I can be of service to them, so I'd rather, be of service to those I know I can be, but I can advise them to call tenants' resources and I have other, real estate lawyers that I could pass on to property managers and owners that need to get somebody off the property.
So on the landlord side, they want to prove that the renters have been negligent.
Correct.
But on the renting side, they want to prove that the landlord has been negligent.
Right, and it's sort of
messy.
I can't get in the middle of that. It's just, I can't do that. I have put myself in situations like that before, and it does not, it doesn't serve anyone. Yeah. I don't believe. So that's what I leave to other people that are willing to get into those kinds of situations.
That would be so stressful for my emotions.
Yes.
Like, I see wrongdoing on some level, and I don't want to assign blame, and that would just I'd be cringing in my car.
Yeah,
I don't think I could do it.
Well, my job is to provide a neutral, objective opinion, professional opinion about when I'm doing a home inspection, and so that can bring us back to working with buyers. That's what I'm there to do. I'm going to educate the buyer about their home, that they're about to embark upon a huge journey that's very expensive, and it can also be nerve-wracking, and especially for first-time buyers who I love working with, because they're really curious and they want to know about the house, and that's what I really like to. Those are the kind of folks I really enjoy working with most, because they have good questions, and they're really looking at details that seasoned home buyers may just sort of kind of let go and not pay the closest attention. But of course, I'm always going to be doing the best I can for them as well. And
right. But it's different when you know these people have questions.
Yes.
When you know the client who hired you is going to have 100 questions, then it sort of forces you to be not just thorough, but even explanatory, instead of, these are seasoned buyers. They're probably not going to have 100 questions. They'll probably have 50 questions. And so you're still going to be thorough, but you don't have to be as explanatory in the report or in person, I suppose, if they're following you around.
Yeah, and I love it when clients ask questions and are curious, and I also really like and need to follow my flow when I'm on the job. And so it's just sort of a fine balance of like, okay, I'm going to let you know exactly what I see if it's something that you need to pay close attention to. Otherwise, at the beginning of the inspection, I always want to get their general concerns about the property that they've looked at before. Sometimes they may not have even looked at the property in person.
Right. Yeah.
Like you probably deal with a lot of folks that are just looking at stuff online and they're like, yeah, we're going to do this.
Or when the market moves so fast, you don't have time. It's just write the offer. Let's see if we can get in there. Yeah. And then you're the first person that's educating us about the property. No one else has seen it yet. Yeah. That's wild. I haven't had too many of those, so that's good.
Yeah. I know we all want to be as educated as we can be. And often, when I think about partnering with the real estate agent that I'm working with, and we're working together with these clients that we both want to educate, and we want to provide the best quality of service that we can. And then I'm saying, hey, as you go through the house, when you're looking at things, let me know. And then it's like, ask questions. What is this thing over here? I've never seen this. And then we work together. And I will say, of course, I don't know every answer all the time, and I don't know, maybe it's something I've never seen either. Yeah. And so when I don't know something, I always let the person know, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to find out for you. And I will do either a quick internet search if it's relevant, or I can ask a colleague in the field, and we work together. So that's what I love about my home inspection work.
Awesome. So you're up in Tukwila, you're in Lakewood, you're kind of everywhere. What is your general sphere of how far you're willing to go and how far we should consider hiring you for?
I live in Tukwila, like you said, so that's just sort of, I guess, South King County ish. And so I would love to gear my business South King County, Pierce, parts of North Thurston, Kitsap County, part of Kitsap County.
The part that is accessible by ferry, that part.
We can I'll take the bridge, and then I'll also charge a small travel fee if we need to take ferry. I've gone over to the islands, like Bainbridge Island before, and so I also do go north. So if you all have buyers or sellers up north in Snohomish County, I go there as well. All right. I've gone up to Everett and Marysville.
Oh boy.
And then as far south as, I think, maybe Shelton, or a little bit further south.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know you mentioned personally when we had another chat that you would go out to the ocean.
Yes, out to the coast.
Yeah.
And I just charge a small travel fee for that too, because it's kind of an all-day
It does. But it's not like you can stack up many inspections along the way or along the way back.
That's right.
It's just sort of that's the drive time. So that's what it is.
And I like to take my time. I like to give my clients my full attention, so I don't try to jam-pack things in.
Oh, that's so helpful.
Yeah.
These are things that can't be rushed.
It's right. And I have been in situations where there's 2 inspections scheduled, or there are times when, agents need to be on their way doing something else, but I don't want to rush the inspection, so I have to really, I do need to watch my time when I'm on inspections, and so I want to be mindful of everybody in the inspection, if, for the client, of course, and the real estate agent. And if there are still people living in the house, we have to be considerate of that situation, so there are time constraints. And, but I feel like my work can be easily done within those constraints and still respecting everybody in the situation.
Yeah. What type of report do you offer for the buyers?
I offer an electronic report, so it's a PDF, and often same day. If not same day, then within 24 hours, easily.
I'm sure when they're late afternoon inspections or winter and we're running out of light,
right.
like, okay.
I certainly have to pay attention to scheduling when it's a fall and winter day or evening, and so then it's imperative that I pay attention to the clock. And but yes, and I'll get home and it's like, I got to still finish that report up. So I'm lucky I've got flexibility in my home life to be able to do that too. So
that's awesome. Is that part of what drew you to home inspecting, is having flexibility for your personal time?
Well, yes, and I'm raising a 13-year-old daughter.
Oh boy!
And so we're going back and forth to volleyball practices, and but yes, I feel like it was what drew me to this field is that I can use my brain and my body. I can be inside and outside. I can work with people, or I can work alone. I can. That the hours are flexible. I'm my own boss. I pay myself well, and it's a fairly low overhead for running my own business.
That's
it's
amazing.
Just a really good, well-rounded business. And my background is as an archives and records and information manager.
Really?
So I'm not your typical construction building science type of person.
That's usually how it happens.
It is. And so what I carry over, though, from that previous career is documenting and reporting, educating, and customer service. So those are the skills that are most important when I'm doing an inspection anyway. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, wow, I actually have these skills. And, when I got trained to be an inspector, the whole thing felt really natural as a new career for me that was just completely different from what I had been doing.
Wow. Is this your favorite career so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see myself doing it for quite a long time. I was sort of sad my daughter doesn't have any interest in taking over the family business, but
there's still
she's
time.
13. She doesn't like bugs,
so she may not like crawling under houses.
She may not. I actually really like that part of the experience, because then I can actually see what's going on with the plumbing, and I can see if there are insulation problems or crawl space issues, any kind of things that need repairs that the buyers need to be really aware about, and sellers too. Yeah. So that's a good place to go.
It's always interesting what we find under the houses.
It is.
Because you have no idea. You can live there for 20 or 30 years and never go down there. Mm-hmm. So nobody knows if there's dead animals under your house, and no one knows if there's pests, and no one knows if there's water damage until we hire someone to go take a look.
That's right. And we can do that by maintenance inspections, and especially for people that have lived in their homes for 20, 30 years, that, you may sell a home to somebody and want to check in on a client, and that's a good touch point. Yeah. And say, hey, it's been like 10 years since we bought this house together, and who knows what's going on in the crawl space or attic.
Yeah. So since you started in 2020, you're coming up on the 4 and 5 year anniversary of your first clients, and we're like,
that's right.
Hey, how's that house?
That's right. Yeah. So I may check in on my own just to see, is it something that they want to get done, or and just to see, like, are they paying attention to the suggestions that I made. Yeah.
That's awesome. I have had clients take their inspection printouts and use them as a punch list for things that need to be done. And I love that. I think every client should do that. Not just keep it in your email forever, but open it, go back and check on it from time to time. Like, oh, right, there was something I was supposed to work on at some point, some deferred maintenance that was tolerable at the time that I bought it.
Yeah.
It's been a while now.
Yep, like leaking gutters are a huge one.
Yeah.
Things that people just kind of like deal, like touch-ups on painting, the exterior, a lot of exterior stuff.
Yes, let's talk about exterior stuff, because
Sure.
we're coming into the best season to take care of it. It's dry for a little while. It's not cold outside. What exterior things do you think people should take care of as soon as possible, whether they're selling, especially if they're planning to sell soon?
I would certainly start with painting and, prepping and painting, because the sun will weather the paint no matter what. If it's been more than, I guess it's supposed to be like 10-ish years.
Okay.
I think that's sort of the general length of time that like a really good coat of paint is going to hold up in our climate because of the water and the sun.
Yeah.
So, and also specifically focusing on the fascia tail ends, which are like in the trim that's along the gables.
Yeah.
And so often there's not flashing, like the metal.
It's a metal sheet that causes the rain to skip over the wood.
Correct. And so,
but sometimes it's not there.
Sometimes it is not there, or sometimes it's not really fully covering that trim, and so then water damage happens so easily and
so fast.
And when we have the sideways rain, sometimes it just, and so I see a lot of rotten fascia tail ends. Also, trim above windows and doors is sometimes not trim. Like the flashing over the windows and doors can be missing.
Yeah.
So that metal sheet again, that protects those areas from rot.
I had 2 windows out of 3 bedroom windows on the front of the house. 2 of them didn't have flashing.
Wow.
Like, wait.
Yeah, it's like what happened? That's like a defect in construction for sure. If it's an older home, you can expect to not see it.
Yeah.
But it's also something that can be remedied.
It wasn't hard to fix.
Yeah.
But we had to know that it was a problem.
Yep. And so a lot of times homeowners are not looking at that at all. Unless there's a really good overhang with the roof, then it's not too much of a concern at that point.
Yeah.
What are other things I see are the window wells when there's an above ground basement. Oftentimes there's sort of an unsafe drop over those, and so I would recommend getting that. There's metal grating that you can put over the tops of those, so that people don't just stumble into them and hurt themselves.
Yeah.
I have to call those out on rental inspections a lot.
Okay.
Graspable handrails, so that it makes your house more accessible to folks that need help getting up and down stairs.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean a 2x4, but it means like an actual rod or like a 2-inch, I think, diameter grasp for folks that are either, let's say that there's an elderly person or someone recovering from surgery or a toddler learning to walk and they need to use the stairs. And so those are important to put in.
Or your arms are full.
Your arms are full and you just need to like balance yourself on something.
Yeah.
And
so those are great improvements to be doing in spring and early summer, thinking ahead to even if you're not selling this year, but maybe next year, like, oh yeah, we do have time to paint the house right now. It could happen.
Yeah, plus it's good curb appeal.
Yes, it is.
So
yeah, I love a fresh coat of paint.
I do too.
What are some of your favorite inspections to do?
Okay, so I like new construction. Because usually there's nobody living in there at that moment, and it's a lot easier to, that I don't have to jump over people's items when I'm inspecting. And it does provide a really good kind of quote-unquote clean slate.
Yeah.
Although you would be very surprised at the amount of defects that I find in new construction as well that should have been taken care of. There were a lot of electrical issues that people don't notice sometimes. But when I open up the electrical panel, which is also one of my favorite things to do, I just like unscrewing them and looking at the panel and trying to catch if there are any mistakes that the professional electricians make. Sometimes that can be a little deceiving. When I was just at an inspection the other day, they were doing an 11-month warranty inspection.
Yeah.
So the builders are responsible for repairing.
Up to that 1 year mark, so
Correct.
you better find out.
So, and it's like any defects in the building and the structure, and these are clearly defects in the building. And so when the person wanted to operate their garbage disposal, you had to turn on a light switch. And then when we pressed the button to have the disposal start, the rest of the lights on the main floor would flicker.
Oh my gosh.
So a huge electrical problem, whatever in the case it might be. They had a ventilation problem in the kitchen as well. So whenever the vent would turn on, actually air would blow into the right above the cooktop.
No way.
From the microwave vent, and then it would produce a huge amount of condensation on the cabinetry. And it's just like,
So that's
it was
mold
one thing
waiting
after
to
another.
happen.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
that's terrible.
And I did do, there was another like 5 or 6 year old house that had like a huge mold and ventilation issue in the attic. And that's just not supposed to happen. Insulation was covering a lot of the soffit vents in the attic.
Well, that's not supposed to be there.
It is not. And, there are baffles that are there that are the cardboard or composite material that keeps the insulation away from the vents, and that's supposed to properly ventilate the attic.
Wow.
But so I do like to do new construction. I always recommend a sewer scope, which I coordinate. I have got a really great company I work with for sewer scopes, and they're always on time, just like I am. And they're very reliable, and they provide a video, and that's emailed right away and explained in great detail. So,
is that an extra service beyond your fee, or how does that work?
Yes. So, but folks can request a sewer scope right on my website or by working with me as well. One can. If people feel comfortable, they can book an inspection online on my website, or they can call, or an agent can call if one is interested to find out right away, am I available the next day? And I can absolutely hook the inspection up and book it. And it's a really simple system. It's people can pay online, view the report online, and book it online too.
That makes it so easy.
It does.
Yeah. And I tell buyers that we have to pay at the time of service. So how do you prefer to be paid?
They can actually pay up until the time they want to view the report.
Oh.
So once I'm finished with the report, they can then use the payment link and then access the report that way.
So they can do it at home the next day or from work or wherever they happen to be?
If they have a check they want to pay that way, that's fine too in person.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's very easy and accessible. Yay. Is there anything you don't inspect, you refer it out, like that's not my thing, other than the tenant-landlord dispute things?
I don't do appraisals, and people often say, do you do appraisals? And I say, no, that's not me. Usually they're ordered through the bank or the lender. So I don't do appraisals. I don't do the sewer scope on my own, but I do hire, I partner with another company or two. I don't do radon testing.
Does anybody do radon testing?
A lot of people do,
Really?
but not specifically around here, but a lot of people in our profession are certified to do radon gas testing, but we don't have a lot of that in this area, so mostly it doesn't happen.
Okay.
And then I also don't do mold testing, but I always say when I see it, and I can recommend what some good options will be for that.
I frequently see the phrase evidence of mold, but in my opinion, as a non-professional professional, it's moist here. We have like 80% humidity year round. So in my experience, there should be evidence of moisture at all times, but that doesn't mean your home is toxic and you're going to die.
Correct.
So I'm sure you have a better phrase to use than there's evidence of moisture.
we often will say organic growth noted throughout the attic.
So that would be worse than
evidence of moisture.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, often there isn't evidence of moisture when I go in an attic.
Well, that's good.
I mean, it's just sort of a luck of the draw, I guess you could say. But proper ventilation is so imperative. And I mean, in older homes, I've seen like amazing attics.
Really? So it's not always the age of the home.
Correct.
Wow.
Because like I was saying earlier, there was a house for 5 or 6 years old that had terrible mold problem.
Only 5 or 6.
So,
not 25, not 50.
Like, like 80 years old that I've been in houses that are... And another time we'll talk about my interest in historic homes as well.
Yes.
Which I love.
That should be a whole podcast.
It should be.
Yeah. I love historic homes. I deal a lot with I call them the Tacoma cuties because they're not exactly craftsmen, but they're bigger than a bungalow. So, they're the 1,000 square foot. They're all over the place in this area of Tacoma, and they're a box on the outside, but the inside could be so many different layouts. I love them. They're so fantastic for a lot of different people in their family situations, whether you're single or you've got roommates or your family. It doesn't really matter. It's a great house.
I love those
but
too.
The age of the house can be huge. 1935, 1985. A lot of different deferred maintenance between those two ages. And so one might have mold and one might not.
Yes, very much so. But yes, I do spend a lot of time educating my clients about deferred maintenance and why it is imperative to take care of the things that that will eventually turn into major problems if they're not taken care of properly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
On behalf of them having to sell the house later, yes, educating on the front end. Let's take care of these things. Yeah, very important.
Yeah, especially, I mean, if they're planning to live in the house a long time as well.
Yeah.
And it's just something that, when they are first buying the house, I can talk about. These are the really important things to just keep your eye out for and just keep on top of. So
it is. It's very important. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're going to have your contact information and website in the show notes and in all the links everywhere so that people can easily find you. So this is Lisa Lotus with Taurus Inspections, and she's just been a blast today. So you better stay tuned and subscribe because we're going to have a really awesome probably a series of podcasts in the future between historic homes and other interests that we both share. So thank you so much for being here today.
thank you, Nikki.
Hey.